The day Elon Musk lost his voice began like any other. It was a crisp October morning in 2023, and the billionaire entrepreneur was preparing to deliver a keynote address at an AI summit in San Francisco. He had been experiencing a mild sore throat for a few days, but dismissed it as nothing serious, just another minor inconvenience in his relentlessly busy life. As he stepped onto the stage, Musk cleared his throat and began his presentation. Within minutes, however, something was clearly wrong. His voice, normally confident and commanding, began to crack and fade. By the time he was 10 minutes into his speech, it had dwindled to a barely audible rasp. Eventually, he was forced to apologize to the stunned audience and abruptly end his presentation. "I appear to be losing my voice," he croaked into the microphone, attempting to make light of the situation. "Maybe the AI is finally finding a way to shut me up." The audience laughed nervously, but what seemed like a temporary inconvenience would soon become much more serious. By that evening, Musk couldn't speak at all. Initial medical examinations suggested a severe case of laryngitis, and doctors recommended complete vocal rest for a week. But when that week passed with no improvement, further tests revealed something far more concerning. Musk had developed a rare neurological condition called idiopathic vocal cord paralysis, which had caused his vocal cords to become temporarily immobilized. "The prognosis is uncertain," his doctor explained during a consultation that Musk's assistant recorded for him. "Some patients recover within weeks, but others can take 6 months or more. There's no surgical intervention or medication that can speed up the healing process. Your vocal cords need time to regenerate the damaged nerve connections. Complete vocal rest is essential. Even whispering could cause further harm." For a man whose businesses and personal brand relied heavily on his ability to communicate, present, and persuade, the diagnosis was devastating. Musk's immediate reaction, typed furiously on his phone and shown to his doctor, was characteristic. "Is there any experimental treatment? Something being tested somewhere? I'm willing to try anything." But the answer was no. This was one problem that neither money nor technology could solve quickly. His recovery would take time, patience, and acceptance. 3 things that had never been Elon Musk's strong suits. The news of Musk's condition soon leaked to the press, sending Tesla and SpaceX stocks tumbling amid uncertainty about how the famously hands-on CEO would manage his companies without being able to speak. Speculation ran wild, with some analysts predicting that Musk would be forced to temporarily step down from his leadership roles. Instead, Musk did something that surprised everyone. He posted a simple message on his social media accounts: "Lost. My voice due to a temporary medical condition. Doctors say I need to remain completely silent for a few months to recover. Challenge accepted. We'll be running all companies as usual, just with fewer words. Might be an improvement." What followed was one of the most remarkable and transformative periods in Elon Musk's already extraordinary career. 6 months of enforced silence that would fundamentally change how he led his companies and interacted with the world. The first weeks were chaotic and frustrating. Musk initially tried to communicate primarily through text messages and emails, firing off hundreds of messages a day to executives, engineers, and team members across his companies. But the nuance and immediacy of verbal communication was lost, leading to misunderstandings and delays. During a particularly difficult Tesla product development meeting 3 weeks into his silence, Musk, frustrated by his inability to quickly convey complex feedback, abruptly stood up and walked to a whiteboard. In a moment of improvisation, he began sketching out his thoughts instead of typing them. A rough diagram of the design changes he wanted, with annotations and questions scribbled alongside. The team responded immediately to the visual approach. What had been a struggling conversation suddenly became fluid and productive. Musk left the meeting with a revelation. Perhaps losing his voice would force him to find better ways to communicate. That evening, he sent a company-wide email to Tesla. "SpaceX and his other ventures. New protocol. I'm going visual. We'll communicate primarily through sketches, diagrams, and visual thinking for the next few months. Research shows 65% of people are visual learners anyway. Let's see where this takes us. Musk converted one of the conference rooms at Tesla headquarters into what employees soon dubbed the silence room. The walls were covered with whiteboards and digital displays. For critical meetings, he would prepare elaborate visual presentations in advance, using a combination of diagrams, flowcharts, and annotated images to convey complex ideas without words. What began as an adaptation to a medical necessity quickly revealed unexpected benefits. Engineers noted that Musk's visual thinking approach forced a clarity and precision that verbal discussions sometimes lacked. Ambiguities that could hide in spoken language were exposed when ideas had to be drawn or diagrammed. It's like he's building a shared mental model that everyone can see, one Tesla executive explained to CNBC. When Elon talks, he's brilliant, but sometimes moves faster than people can follow. When he draws, we all literally see the same picture. 3 months into his forced silence, something remarkable began happening across Musk's companies. Teams started adopting his visual communication methods even for meetings he wasn't attending. Engineers at SpaceX created a dedicated, visual, thinking space where complex problems were mapped out visually rather than just discussed. Tesla design teams began using collaborative sketching sessions to resolve disagreements that might previously have devolved into circular verbal arguments. The impact on decision-making was profound. At Tesla, the engineering team working on the next-generation battery technology found that visualizing the production process from end to end revealed inefficiencies that had been overlooked for months. At SpaceX, a potential design flaw in a rocket component was identified when an engineer was forced to draw it rather than just describe it verbally. But perhaps the most significant change happened within Musk himself. Forced to listen without the ability to immediately respond, he began to observe dynamics in his companies that he'd previously missed. He noticed which team members had valuable insights, but rarely spoke up in meetings. He saw how certain voices dominated discussions, while others were sidelined. In his personal notebook, which would later be published as The Silence Journals, Musk wrote, "When you cannot speak, you realize how rarely most people truly listen. I've been guilty of this myself. Preparing to respond rather than understanding. This silence is teaching me to absorb before I form judgments." 4 months into his silence, Musk initiated what would later be seen as his most innovative management experiment. He established Silent Tuesdays across all his companies, a full day each week when meetings would be conducted without verbal communication. Participants used visual tools, collaborative digital workspaces, and structured written formats to share ideas and make decisions. Initially met with skepticism, Silent Tuesdays soon became legendary for their efficiency and creative outcomes. Teams reported that they accomplished more in these silent sessions than in entire weeks of traditional meetings. The approach forced precise thinking, eliminated pointless digressions, and created a more level playing field for introverts and those who processed information differently. As one SpaceX engineer later put it, "On Silent Tuesdays, the best idea wins, not the loudest voice." By the 5th month of Musk's silence, the business world had taken notice. Harvard Business Review published a case study on the transformation happening within his companies. Management consultants began advocating for silent methodologies inspired by his approach. Competitors were reportedly implementing their own versions of visual thinking protocols and silent collaboration sessions. Then, 5.5 months after losing his voice, Musk received good news from his doctors. His vocal cords were showing significant signs of recovery. With careful therapy, he could begin speaking again, softly at first, gradually building back to normal over the coming weeks. The news should have been cause for straightforward celebration. Instead, Musk found himself conflicted. In a private message to his leadership team, he wrote, "Not sure I want to go back to business as usual. This silence has become a competitive advantage." When Musk finally spoke publicly again, it was at a hastily arranged press conference that caught the business world by surprise. His voice was softer than before, requiring him to use a microphone even in the modest-sized room, but his message was anything but tentative. 6 months ago, losing my voice seemed like a disaster, he began. Today, I see it as one of the most valuable experiences of my career. Being unable to speak taught me, and my entire team, how to communicate with greater clarity and precision than ever before. He then unveiled what would become his most influential innovation, the Integrated Visual Engineering and Communication Framework, IVEC, a comprehensive methodology that codified the visual thinking and silent collaboration techniques developed during his voiceless period. At its core, IVEC is about making the invisible visible, Musk explained. It's about externalizing mental models so they can be shared, critiqued, and improved collectively. When we can all see what each of us is thinking, we make better decisions, faster. The framework included standardized visual templates for different types of engineering challenges, protocols for silent collaborative sessions, and digital tools, specifically designed to facilitate visual communication across global teams. Most importantly, it established a new approach to meetings and decision-making that balanced verbal and visual communication, active speaking, and active listening. Within a year of Musk regaining his voice, the impact of IVEC became quantifiable across his companies. At Tesla, development time for new vehicle features decreased by 28%. SpaceX reported a 34% reduction in design iterations required before reaching final specifications. Even the Boring Company, Musk's tunnel construction venture, achieved a 21% improvement in problem resolution timeframes. But beyond the metrics, something more fundamental had changed in how Musk led. Executives who had worked with him for years noted a distinct shift in his leadership style. He interrupted less in meetings. He created more space for diverse viewpoints. When he did speak, his comments were more focused and impactful. Before, the voice incident. Elon was brilliant but sometimes overwhelming, one longtime Tesla executive told Business Insider. He would dominate a room with the force of his personality and rapid-fire ideas. Now he's equally brilliant but more measured. He's learned how to harness the collective intelligence of his teams more effectively. Musk himself acknowledged the transformation in his widely viewed TED interview 18 months after regaining his speech. Losing my voice was the best thing that ever happened to my companies, he said. It forced me to recognize that how we communicate is just as important as what we're trying to accomplish. When you can't rely on words, you discover there are other ways to connect minds and solve problems, ways that are often more powerful. The business world took notice. IVEC principles began appearing in MBA curricula and corporate training programs. Tech companies and traditional manufacturers alike adopted elements of the framework, often reporting similar improvements in collaboration and innovation. For Musk personally, the experience led to another unexpected change. He became a vocal advocate for neurodiversity in the workplace, particularly for incorporating the perspectives of those who process information differently. Having experienced firsthand the advantages of visual thinking and nonverbal communication, he began actively recruiting people with distinctive cognitive styles across his companies. Some of the best engineering minds don't think in words, he explained during the opening of Tesla's Neurodiverse Innovation Center. They think in pictures, patterns, spatial relationships. For too long, our work environments have been optimized for verbal processes. We're changing that, and it's giving us access to talent and ideas that others are missing. 3 years later, when Forbes named Musk their innovator of the decade, the article highlighted how his 6 months of silence had transformed not just his own companies, but influenced management practice across industries. The piece concluded, "Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come not from what we create, but from what we're forced to give up." In losing his voice, Musk found a new way to be heard. Today, the principles developed during Musk's silent period continue to evolve. IVEC 3.0 has incorporated advances in augmented reality to create immersive visual communication environments. Silent Tuesdays have become standard practice at over 400 major corporations worldwide. and management theorists regularly cite the Musk paradox, how constraint can be a catalyst for unprecedented innovation. As for Elon Musk himself, he now deliberately maintains regular periods of silence in his schedule, typically spending 1 week per quarter in complete vocal rest. These silent retreats have become known as times when his most revolutionary ideas emerge. When asked by a journalist if he ever regretted the medical condition that temporarily took his voice, Musk's answer was characteristically direct. "Regret it? I'm grateful for it. Sometimes the universe forces you to change in ways you'd never choose for yourself. I always thought my success came from what I said and did. It turned out my greatest contribution came from what I couldn't say, and what that taught me about listening." In the end, the 6 months of silence that many predicted would derail Elon Musk's career instead catalyzed his most profound innovation, one that had nothing to do with rockets, electric cars, or neural implants. By losing his voice, he found a better way to lead, communicate, and create. And in doing so, he demonstrated that sometimes our greatest limitations can become our most unexpected strengths. Have you ever had an obstacle or limitation that ultimately made you stronger or more innovative? Share your story in the comments below. If this unexpected journey of how Elon Musk's forced silence transformed his leadership resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to Impact Stories for more powerful moments that change lives and industries forever. We bring you new, meticulously researched stories every week that reveal how unexpected challenges can lead to extraordinary breakthroughs. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming story about how Jeff Bezos discovered a revolutionary retail concept during 3 months stranded in a remote village with no internet or phone service. Remember, sometimes our greatest innovations emerge not from our strengths, but from adapting to our limitations. See you in our next Impact Story.